I was just looking at a video on Do Not God's site, which is a response to D.P.R. Jones' video about objective morality, but I couldn't look at the original, unfortunately, because D.P.R. Jones' videos seem to have all been taken down, and the specific one that Gary was responding to, I don't know, it brings up some kind of message that's been taken down for some kind of, I don't know, something to do with Channel 4. Anyway, I don't know what it is. But yeah, I mean, that term objective is a bit of a problem, I think, in relation to morality. I mean, I think we know what it means, but it is a bit of a problem. I'm just trying to think if it wouldn't be more interesting and productive to talk about universal morality or even just human morality. And what would be lost if you use one of those terms instead of objective? So I think when we use words like objective reality, we are mobilizing metaphors of objects, and particularly certain kinds of prototypical metaphors to do with what constitutes an object, which is that it's kind of out there in the world somehow. It precedes our arrival on the scene. It's like an ancient rock that's just kind of sitting there that you eventually discover, and you kind of discover morality in that way. You might carve it a bit to make it more in keeping with the times, but it's the essential quality of it is somehow permanent, and as I say, it precedes human arrival on the scene, and precedes anything at all, really. Which is why I think that objective morality is often tied to theological ideas. And I know I don't know much about this, but I think there's a branch of theology called something like deontological, something like that. I don't know enough about it, but I think that particular branch of religious philosophy is about that idea that that morality belongs to this idea of the absolute, which precedes human arrival on the scene. I don't think the same is true of a term like universal. And I suppose I'm looking here at Donald Brown's book, Human Universals, for support in that. It's a great book, actually. It's a very simple book to read, and it's got a really great chapter 6, Universal People, where it just describes what what a kind of average tribe looks like. It's fantastic. But the idea of the human universals is, in the book he lists about 400 qualities which seem to exist in all cultures. Lots of different things like colours and numbers, but also some quite complex behaviours, which you might consider to be moral behaviours. Now, obviously, in that he doesn't go into the origins of, well, maybe it's not obvious, but in that book he doesn't go into the origins of why particular moral, why some of these universals, the ones we think of as moral and ethical statements, why those particular ones would originate. I know there are accounts of that which relate it to biology and genetics, and the fact of us growing up in small bands of hunter-gatherers and in extended family groups. Yeah, maybe so, but I know there's other accounts which place it much more to do with much more abstract notions of what it is to help one another out, or to do something moral and self-sacrificing, even for a total stranger. So I know there are accounts of that as well, but as I say, he doesn't go into that in this book. He just lays out these traits which seem to be found in all societies, and so presumably have occurred to people all around the world as good ideas. So I would certainly favour, just for those, the avoidance of that unfortunate metaphor to do with objects, I would prefer universal morality. But even that, even that, I'm not too sure about, because I think universality, I don't know, it still makes claims beyond it, really, beyond its remit, I suspect, because the universal has a sense of timelessness about it, which may be incorrect. I have no real problem just being basically a humanist about this and talking about human morality, but bearing in mind that humans do change over time. I don't mean we literally physically change, although I suppose we do gradually, but we do change our knowledge, we do accumulate knowledge, we do seem to be able to represent our knowledge symbolically in the form of writing and in the form of videos, in the form of conversation and so on, and images. So we do seem to be able to do that. So it would be weird if along with that knowledge accumulating and changing and becoming more complex and interrelated over time, if our knowledge about what was possible in the moral realm didn't also change to keep pace with that. So I would prefer human morality, which isn't the same as subjective. Subjective is completely different. But I think there are ways of looking at morality which ground it in the human sense. Actually, I'm pausing, so I'm just remembering a video I watched by the theologian, religious apologist William Lane Craig, where he was talking about this, and he kept coming. I can't remember. It was on YouTube somewhere. I'll see if I can find it. But he was talking about people kept asking him questions. Why do we need God to ground our reality out? And basically asking the Euthyphro question, and which he recognised. But he kept coming back to this thing, saying, well, without God we are just slightly evolved primates living on a speck of dust somewhere in the endless oceans of space. Yeah, and as if that constituted an argument for an absence of morality, as if to be moral you have to be big, as if to be moral you have to be permanent, as if to be moral you have to be spread throughout equally distributed throughout the universe, or somehow outside of it. I don't know, but I don't know. I just found it seemed to be an impossibility he was having in accepting what he felt morality needed to look like, this big solid object that lives somewhere outside of space and time, called God, let's say, or held in the hand of God, this big object. He seemed it impossible to build that idea, or to move away from that metaphorical image into a morality which can exist, amongst slightly evolved primates on a speck of dust on the outer spiral arm of the Milky Way. I mean, personally, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not sacrificing my understandings of morality to moral relativism, I don't think, or saying they're subjective, or making any kind of claim that my moral compass is less pointy and less directed than a moral compass held in the hand of a rock-like being outside of space and time. I can't see what difference it would make placing it on the speck of dust. If that makes any sense at all. I suppose I'm just saying objective reality is a problematic word for me, and for me it takes a lot of the pressure off if I substitute universal or just substitute human for it. Thanks very much.